So today, oh, Chris is viewer 14. Okay, Chris, you can change your name. You right click on viewer 14 and you say change. Demo. So status. Nick, you wanted to do something?
I was going to do it last week, but I haven't got fast internet today, so I'm not going to demo, or else you won't see anything. It will be too much lag.
Daniel?
No demo from here.
What?
Yeah, I know. Big disappointment, huh?
I got some screenshot and you don't want to do any demo?
No, it's not fully cooked yet. I think you should give it another week.
Okay.
But I can tell you that we've been working on some good stuff.
I see some log. Every day. Wow.
For example, we added full keyboard integration to the editor.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Everywhere in the admin?
You wish. And also, we did what Bertrand asked, which is focused a bit on the accessibility. So everything is you can do everything with the keyboard now as well.
Okay. Did you try on the
mobile?
On these browsers where you can fake the tactile tablets or
No.
No. You can just see the text. You can just see the text and okay. So no demos. Chris has a demo today. Does anyone have a demo also? Lombic.
I would have a bit to discuss about Orchard ambassadors.
Okay. Subtopic MVPs. What do I see in the chat? Okay, so let's check the status. If there is something interesting, there is not just Daniel and Zoltan. So Daniel and Sipke. Zoltan did the merge from Owin to 1.x. So that's good. So apparently Daniel and Sipke have spent their week updating the to-do list.
Yeah, we moved the to-do list to an internal to-do list.
Area attributes. Yes, this is what I saw. Screenshot. Fixed persistence, blah 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 blah. It's just fixing and fixing and fixing. Everything's broken.
Not anymore.
Yeah. Okay. Lots of work. Lots of work. Lots of work. Crazy. No life. Okay. Lombic. Git files are now also excluded from publish. Yep. Good catch. Should web says proj. Rewritten command, blah blah blah. So whenever I see W3C, I'm like, really, Orchard is compliant with standards. Redundant input files. Okay, cool. And finally, Lombic on 1x, fixing that the new HTTP async handler didn't expose the request context because it injected request context object to be empty. Let's see that. It has request context. Yep, so as a reminder, just a reminder, Git messages should be short, and on the next line you can start a longer explanation if you want. Didn't expose the request context. Injecting request context object. Okay. I saw the discussion on the forum. Good.
Question about that is there any write-up or documentation or some discussion thread about the Owin support where you can get an idea of what it does, how it works?
Not really. Not really. I have a branch with some examples, or well, because there is a meeting here, just a quick explanation of how to make things work. No, not official explanation, but just to let you know.
That'd be great.
There is the notion of middleware in Owin. Okay, and middleware being a component in the pipeline of the request. Maybe just a reminder, because we are here. You can see my screen. So Owin works with middlewares. They are just, let's say, components which will be called as a pipeline. So when you have the request entering a server, there will be middleware 1, which will forward the request to middleware 2, and so on. Okay, middleware 3. And on the way back, let's continue the pipeline. When all middlewares have been processed, the response is generated and it goes back to middleware 3, middleware 2, middleware 1, and then you get back to the client. Okay. So this is Owin in general, the Owin pattern. And the middleware, let's say it's a lambda, it's a function to call. And this function has a pointer to the next middleware. So it can call it or not. So you could say, oh, middleware 2 will block the request and send back directly the response. So, and like blocking middleware 3 from being executed, stopping the pipeline. This could be interesting, for instance, as a cache middleware. So if you have the cache here, the cache middleware, you could say, oh, I can handle this request. I write the response and I stop the flow. I don't need to go to the next middleware. Okay, so the other is kind of important here. So this is how Owin works. And this way you can implement HTTP modules, kind of the HTTP modules. So we were limiting in Orchard to build HTTP modules because they are registered before Orchard can kick in. So with these middlewares, we can do it now. And in the Orchard support for Owin, there is something called Owin middleware. Where is that? So Owin middleware is a base class. Owin middleware, Orchard middleware. So So Owin middleware is the base class that you need to implement to support to actually create an actual Owin middleware in Orchard. And here you see you can set a priority, which will define in which order the middlewares will be registered. Because in the actual Owin, it will be depend on the order of the registration in the code. When you say middlewares.add and you register middleware, they will be processed in this order. With Orchard, we need a priority, like we have for a priority, so that we can define the order of that, of these middlewares based on each module. And each feature, each module in Orchard can provide middlewares. Okay, and we have a default provider which will look for all the Owin middleware implementations. So where do I have it? This is this one.
I don't think there is any Owin middleware provider implementation built in. But I have planned to write a blog post about all this.
There is one. Oh, wait. There is none? That's weird. Maybe that's all code that needs to be removed. Interesting.
I don't think you use it.
There must be one. Where is it?
No, really, there isn't.
I had to check my branch. Maybe something is missing here. So how is that working if there is none? Because you see here, it's looking for the providers, ordering all the provided middlewares by priority, and then registering them inside the app builder. So by calling the inversion here, middleware configure yourself in the app builder, so that every middleware can register itself in the app builder, which is the Owin app builder. And then, so what is interesting here is that all your middlewares you have in your modules are registered using priority. And in the end, we do use Orchard, which is the Ultra middleware. So how it works is that the last one, and always the last, is Orchard. Okay, Orchard will then process the request, meaning execute the controllers from the MVC pipeline. And if we look at this one, it's just processing the handler, MVC handler. So there should be one. That this is weird. Okay, I'll check. Oh no, sorry. This is actually what you have to implement in your modules. You implement an Owin middleware provider in your module to return the Owin middleware instances. So you don't inherit from that, or you can inherit from that, but yeah, it's not about implementing an interface to provide a middleware. It's about implementing an Owin middleware provider. This is what you need to do in your modules. That's why there is none. Understood, Zoltan? Make sense?
Yeah, it was clear, quite clear for me from the beginning.
Sorry,
but it makes sense. Yeah.
Bad question. So this is how to implement that, and let's see. Do we have an example? Later, maybe. Yeah, but well, this is how it works. And when you implement this thing, okay, when you give the lambda for that, you will see that you have access to what's interesting here. Nothing. I will give you an example. I have one example. And
would it make sense to have the output cache module be a middleware component, for example?
Yes, totally. This is a typical usage of the middleware, and it will make it much faster because it will how do you say?
Execute before the Orchard?
Yes. So it will block everything. There might be some limitations. Because there are some stuff that we need in Orchard, like settings and everything. But you can still access the settings from middleware, even if Orchard hasn't kicked in, even if the MVC handler hasn't kicked in. This is also some good stuff, because you can have a dependency injection in your middlewares, in your Owin middlewares. That's beautiful.
Right, so artifact will have been initialized, of course.
Yeah. So yes, this is a typical usage of the middleware. Cache, do that. Logging, cache, image processing. Like if we see it's an image request for the profile. What's the name of this module? For the media profiles. Media processing. Yes, media processing. It could also take the action, everything. Authentication has been done. So actually, for some history, it was not this summer, but the one before. I had been asked to ensure that the new identity work that had been done for ASP.NET would work in Orchard. And this new identity work is actually using Owin. So this is why I needed Owin to work in Orchard to test that. And I started the work, and also using Nick's work on Owin that he had done before, actually. And I implemented an Owin middleware to support this identity framework, and I implemented the Google Auth support. So I have the code. in my branch, and I think it's also public on my backup fork. You can find it. So yes, the ultimate goal will be to have the full authentication support using the new identity stack from ASP.NET, and we will then support OAuth natively.
Does that stack still work on vNext? Do you know the identity stack?
I'm sure it will be ported on vNext. Yes, it has been ported on vNext.
It has been ported. Okay, cool.
Yep. Okay. And
is there anything you need to do to activate, like any configuration change you need to do between executing on Owin versus executing on traditional system?
Yes, but it's done by default. And what Zoltan has done is a way to disable it from the unit test because it's breaking the unit test. So you will see here, this is what registers Owin.
Okay. And if you're not running on Owin,
then it won't load all
effect.
Yep. So you can check it here. If you want to not load Owin, because now Owin will be by default. So Owin is by default, it's just one middleware by default, the other middleware, so it has no impact at all. And if we go on the test here, on the spec flow test, if I can find the folder, content. Zoltan, feel free to.
Yeah, that's it.
Here, you see automatic app startup false. By doing that, you disable Owin completely.
Okay.
And this is required in the spec flow test because the spec flow tests are using the internal ASP.NET runtime, the hosting code from ASP.NET, because ASP.NET contains like a micro web server. But this one, which is the old Cassini thing, doesn't support integrated mode. And Owin needs integrated mode. This is why you have a goal, which is to change Orchard specs to use IS Express instead, which supports integrated mode. That's it for Owin. So yes, to do.
Very cool. Thanks for the intro.
Branches. If you see Owin, feature Owin and Owin.
What's that Roslyn branch? I asked you, and you said you hadn't done any work on it.
I can say also. Now that's fine. So this, I thought about it publicly, and I said someone needs to try it.
You never pushed it.
No, but there is. Oh yeah, let me show you. Okay, wait. First, Owin. You see here. This is you see 1 year ago. Let me check. Owin, a working state, diff, and I will show you the middlewares. And default, blah, blah, blah. Output cache, middleware. What is that? Oh, did I try that? But yeah, you're very, okay. So this is a fake middleware, okay? So you create in your module a middleware, okay, which implements, Owin middleware provider. And on register, you will be called on register IApp builder. This is where you register, and you say use this lambda. So you code which function will be executed in the pipeline. And here in the pipeline on the request, I say add the headers xowin and a new header, and I call next. Okay, so it calls the next middleware in the pipeline. And here's the position 1. And because it's a string, you can have 1.2.3. It's like the positioning in the UI. Then this one will be registered. You see, this one is very simple, just to register it. So this is how you should do that. And I have this one, authentication using Owin, and everything is public actually. and you see this is Google Auth middleware. So this is showing how to use Google Auth authentication using Owin. This is very interesting. No time to explain how it works, but so there is code. And then the question from Nick was Roslyn. Where is Roslyn? It's not on. Yeah, this one. Using Roslyn not so long ago. Yes. This is public code, but when I did that, it was not public code. I had been asked to try Roslyn as the compilation provider for ASP.NET. This is what I've done. And it's very simple to define. You just do a reference on the NuGet package for Roslyn. Okay, there is a NuGet package. And it will change your web config to reference the Roslyn code dump provider, which will be used to compile all the views instead of the internal C# code dump provider. It will use Roslyn. And it will make it much faster to compile views than the internal C# compiler. And views and templates and everything which requires the compilation in ASP.NET will use Roslyn instead, which is much faster, takes much less memory and everything. So this is just a NuGet package, and at that time it was not public. I think it was on myget or local folder. Here, if I go to nuget.org, so there is nothing special about Orchard here, but I just need to ensure it was working in Orchard.
Okay.
Yeah, this one. No. Yeah, look for Roslyn. Must be public.
I just thought you wrote some code or something. I didn't realize it was just a NuGet package. Okay.
Well, maybe it's not public. Sure,
it might be on that NuGet v2 dev branch.
Here, code dump providers for the .NET compiler platform. Okay. Only 420 downloads. Crazy. Oh, pre-release. Okay. Maybe there is a new, when was it? July 9. Okay. Maybe there is an official one, which is different than this one. But yeah, that's it. And I've seen some articles on the web about it, so yeah, it should be pretty easy. Maybe we should do it by default.
Yeah, any reason not to use it
No.
by default?
No, as long as it works. No reasons not to. Make it even faster. Yes, the reason is not to make Orchard too fast, yeah, like George said, because then it will be uncompetitive with other CMS. Status, demos. Okay, Chris, are you ready for a demo?
Yeah.
So Chris, we don't know you. Can you tell us who you are, what you do, why you use Orchard?
Yeah, can people hear me okay?
Perfectly.
Yeah? Okay. Well, for those who don't know me, my name's Chris. I currently work for a company that makes gambling websites, and we use Orchard for our presentation layer. So what we do is we create a load of widgets, and then we just skin them. So we have we currently have 4 sites running in production. Under the hood, it's just the same site, just skinned, using the multi-tenancy. So one of the big obstacles we had was performance, because all bar about 2 of our pages you have to be logged in for because it's a gaming platform. So we have stuff on there that constantly changes. We have players' balances. We have players' profiles. We have players. We display different widgets depending on a player's gender or player's age, whether or not they've got payment methods registered, and so forth. So a big focus of my work is making Orchard or making our platform perform to a high standard, which brings us to Glimpse.
Cool. I can recognize a Russian accent.
Russian? No,
Yeah.
English. North England.
Another one. Okay.
Yeah.
So you can share your screen if you want. I don't know. You need to click something.
Yeah, go on. How do I do that?
I think you need to click on sharing, and I will give you access. I don't know where.
Cool.
It's under the 3 dots icon at the top of the window.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and I can also pass it directly if I can see you. Done. Okay. I can see. Can anyone see?
Yeah,
Yes.
I see it too.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, computer see that?
Yes.
Okay, so Glimpse is, for anyone who hasn't seen it, it's basically Firebug or Chrome DevTools for the server. So what it does is it puts a little window at the bottom of each of your page requests. And it's got a very nice API you can integrate with, and you can create your own custom tabs. So out of the box, it comes with stuff like a trace viewer and a couple of other bits and bobs, and you can add what they call plugins. So I created an Orchard plugin for this so that we could get a better understanding of what are the slow areas of our code. So this is one of our QA environments, and what I'm going to do is I'll enable Glimpse, and we'll see the plugin appear at the bottom here.
Someone is asking if you could lower your volume, not your microphone, but your volume, because there is some echo.
No, it's not that. It's everyone else should mute. That's the problem. It echoes through someone else's microphone.
Yeah, is that better?
Looks like.
Yeah?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, great. So I'll just minimize this. So when you enable Glimpse, you'll get what they call a head-up display. So it kind of summarizes the main points of the page load. So you've got time spent in server, and you can see that's 7 seconds. Sorry, we've got 4.5 seconds in server, but we've also got 3 seconds in client. And that's because we make some AJAX calls and attempt to defer loading some of the small things, such as the player's balance. We also have host information. Now, when you've got this hooked up to Orchard, this isn't that useful because everything goes through item.display, so you just get loads of item.displays. And you can also see which AJAX calls you've made. Now, the real power of Glimpse is when you expand it. So this is our kind of console, if you like. Some of these tabs are out the box. Some of them I wrote specific for Orchard, and some are external plugins. So I'll just take you through the tabs that are in this plugin very quickly, just to give you a rough idea of what you can see using the Glimpse plugin. So the first one is authorizer. This basically tells you every time the authorizer was checked. It tells you which permission was checked, which content ID that related to, and crucially also how long it took to evaluate. So that'll be a recurring theme through each of these tabs. So this plugin's designed a lot around performance. So we'll see a lot of timings, and there's quite a cool timeline tab that we'll come to later, and you can see it all in action. So this is a pretty basic one, authorizer. We've also got cache. Doesn't look like I've hit any cache. So this tab will show you any cache requests that were made, whether or not it was a hit or a miss, and it'll also tell you puts and clears. Now, this is quite useful because it will also show you the object that was cached or returned from cache, which is quite good when you're trying to debug an issue. I'll come back to this tab because I think I can get cache in a second. The next tab is Content Manager. So this this tab lists out all the content that's on this page and how long the content manager.get call took for each piece of content. So this is ordered by duration, so you can immediately see which bits of content are quite slow to retrieve from the content manager. So we've got a layer here. This took just under half a second, which is quite slow. So that goes down and just shows all the content and how long it took. And again, you get a total time at the bottom. Got a tab called Enabled Features. Pretty much just tells you exactly what it says in the tin. It's just a list of features that are enabled and their description. So our QA team find this quite useful because it allows them to determine whether or not features are enabled. So all the code we write is feature switchable, and our QA team can use this to some good degree without having to log in the admin screen and checking every time. Next tab is layers. So this is quite a good one for our content managers. So this is a list of all the layers that are on this site, and it tells you whether or not they evaluate to true. So all these four are not active, so they evaluate to false. This one here is active, so evaluate to true. It also gives you execution time. This one here is way above the rest. This is one that we wrote ourselves. It actually goes up to a profile, an external profile service to get a player's profile, which is one of the reasons why it's quite slow. But this is, again, is quite a useful page because you can, especially for a content editor that's just getting to grips with layers. And if you've got several complex layers, you can see exactly what's going on. Next tab is part drivers. So this tells you how long each display method took in each of the drivers that was executed in rendering this page. And you can see immediately your slowest one. So there's no surprise there that the slowest is the menu widget part driver. It's 346 milliseconds. Again, it's just a list of all the widgets, all the drivers and how long it took to execute. The shapes tab. This is an interesting tab, but it's a little bit messy. Might need tidying up. Basically, every shape that's rendered, you get a bit of information about. So you can see where the placement information came from. You can see a prefix if it's got one. Its binding source, available binding source, and any alternates that are available. You can also see how long it took to render that shape. Site settings tab, that just takes any site settings that are bound to the site and list them out. I won't show you because we've got some sensitive information in there that can't really make public. Widgets, this is quite an interesting one. So this page basically tells you every widget that's on the page, tells you what layer it's in, tells you what zone it's in, what position it's in, but it also tells you how long it took to execute all the display methods on each driver within that widget. So that's a quick summary of all the tabs. Now, a lot of those tabs had timing information, which leads to quite a nice feature here. So we've got a timeline tab. So you can use this to see exactly where your execution slowed down. Now, if we scroll down, we can see we've got some relatively quick execution here, but then we've got a big blue bar there. So I happen to know that this bar is the widget filter, but you can actually see each of the child calls that the widget filter is making, and you can determine where the slow areas are. Now, interestingly, we've found that a lot of our problems are caused by the content manager, especially content manager.get. So one of the things, the first thing the widget layer does is it gets all the layers so it can evaluate them. And you can see here, each layer, the call that was made to the content manager to get that layer, and you can see the time taken, and we get this gradual slope of purple, which you can see instantly where your problem is. So we've got quite a lot of layers coming out there, and that's took quite a while. That's about 1.5 seconds added to our execution time. The next thing that filter does is it evaluates all the layers. So you can see here each layer evaluation, how long each one took. I mentioned before that one that makes an external API call, that's the external API call there. So you can really use this tool to get a really good insight of performance issues on your site. And if there's some sort of execution issue, you can use it to debug to quite a good degree. After layer evaluation, what we do is we call the drivers for each widget, which we can see down here. So these are quite quick. You can see here instantly there's a slow one, menu widget, as you might expect. This menu widget under the hood is going off to Content Manager again. And then we've got another widget here, which is quite slow. You can see it makes an external API call. And it goes all the way down to when it renders. So we've got shapes here as well. I'll just disable views because we're only interested in shapes. So you can see each shape there and how long each shape took to render. So these are nested. Obviously, you've got your layout there, which contains several other shapes. So you can get a good idea of if any of your shapes take a while to execute as well. So like I say, we've used this to quite some good degree to fix our performance issues. We've got a prototype that's took our uncached page load time down from 3.5 seconds down to under 1 second. And that was all achieved by using the Glimpse plugin and just really targeting the slow areas of code. Now, what's nice about Glimpse is it's got quite a nice API to integrate with, so it's quite easy to write new tabs. But what I've also done is I've wrapped it inside kind of an Orchard API, if you like. So it's got an interface that inherits from iDependency, and you can inject this interface into your own code and quite easily get time and stats out and put stats onto the timeline. So I'll just quickly whiz through the code. I won't go into much detail. Just a quick summary of how you can use this.
Can we do a break to get just
sorry?
Can we do a break just to express ourselves already? Because yes, we'll go to the code, but I think it's awesome. I think everyone thinks it's awesome. Honestly, when I heard about the Glimpse demo, I like, okay, Glimpse as a plugin, that's fine, cool. I didn't even imagine that you would have done all these extensions for all these parts of Orchard, which makes it more than great.
That everybody needs.
Yes. Well, everybody needs Orchard, and every Orchard developer needs that. Yeah.
Needs the Glimpse plugin.
Yes, and like I was saying, the shape designer, the shape tracing. It's in a plugin Glimpse. Let's remove this module and all the.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because the reason why I haven't put much work into the Shapes tab is because it started stepping on the toes of the shape tracer. So I kind of thought there's not much point in putting much more work into this. But what you can actually do is Glimpse is really cool because you could quite easily replicate the shape tracer in Glimpse. There's interfaces you can implement to inject custom JavaScript into each one of your tabs. So you could, by all means, put a wrapper around your shape, and then you could click, say, a shape in here, and it would highlight up in the top, similar to the way that the shape tracer works.
Mm-hmm. And it will also make it more accessible for developers to extend the shape tracer, because today you need knowledge on the full HTML implementation, which is very old and hard to understand. I can say so because it was one of my first modules I did for Orchard 5 years ago. So, that's awesome. And if there are, then we'll see into the code. But if there are also modules or features, these extensions, that makes it much simpler to create more and to just enable the ones we need and to focus on the ones we need, or create custom ones. I don't know, but I think it's awesome. One mentioned that. We also need the SQL one, the one we have in Mini Profiler, all the SQL queries and how long they take.
Yeah, that is on my list of things to do. So at the moment, because my work's focused on performance, that's pretty much all I've done. But yes, you're right. The future tabs I've got are roots. So it would be good to see roots, and so you can help debug roots. There's already an nhibernate plugin, as well as an autofact plugin for Glimpse. They don't work with Orchard. So what I was planning on doing was forking those and getting those to work.
Yeah. This should be really definitely kind of a core module. I don't like to have core external code into the core, but yeah, this one is an enabler because we can enable so many things with that.
Okay, so it's interesting you should say that actually, because I'm currently in the process of refactoring the module into two distinct areas. So one is a performance, I've called it performance monitoring, and the other is the Glimpse implementation. So what I ideally want is an interface, a performance monitor interface where you can send performance, it's effectively a message bus, basically the way Glimpse works. So I've abstracted that out and created this iPerformance monitor interface, which we'll just jump in the code quickly. So again, this is in the middle of a refactor. I've got everything abstracted except for one final piece, which I'm struggling with, but I'll be able to get it done at some point. So this is my performance monitor interface. And basically, it allows you to put what I call messages. Think of it as a message bus. So it allows you to put messages onto a message bus and then consume them at a later date. So the Glimpse implementation is just one implementation of that. You can have as many implementations of this as you want. Sorry, not of this one, of message brokers. There we go. Okay, so you can these message brokers. It's a very simple interface. You basically publish, subscribe, and unsubscribe just as you expect. So this is our Glimpse message broker. Very simple, but you can actually implement this interface to do anything you want. So a bit of work I'm going to do in the near future is to create another message broker that puts these performance messages onto a message bus. I'm then going to have a worker process that will sit there and put these messages into New Relic Insights, and then you can actually be able to see down to widget performance over time. So you could graph how long your slider widget took over time, and you'd be able to identify regressions instantly after a deployment, which would be quite cool.
So
I'll show you this performance monitoring in how it works. Okay, so I've actually got this Glimpse widget filter here. So the way I've got this performance monitoring in currently is I basically suppress the dependency and create my own. So each of these areas is split out into a separate feature that you can independently enable and disable. So pretty much each of those tabs you could enable or disable. So this is the widget one here. So we inject in iPerformance monitor, and this is all it takes to put a message on the timeline. So this here is, or this entire line here is each layer evaluation. That's timing how long it takes, and it puts it onto the message bus in a format that will get it onto the timeline. So it basically takes an expression for the function that you want to time. It then takes a factory for the kind of message that you want to put on. And the reason why it's a message is because you may want the result of this to be inside here. And basically that's it. So ideally what I'd imagine is that if it were to go into Core Orchard, we'd just see this. There would be no concept of Glimpse anywhere. We'd just see iPerformance monitor, and then people can just implement their own. So Glimpse would be one implementation of it. New Relic could be another. You might want to put it into a database and run reports on it. It's up to you, really.
Cool.
So yeah.
While there's the open questions, Nick was mentioning multi-tenancy. I'd like to see how it can be dynamically activated on a website for a specific user so that it doesn't have any impact at all, doesn't run unless I'm authenticated and I can see my own request,
okay.
If I can. Open questions like this, which will make it awesome.
Sure. Glimpse has a concept of runtime policies, and you can create your own runtime policy. One thing to mention is that Glimpse out of the box has quite a performance hit on Orchard, so I had to disable. You can basically go to the web config and disable certain inspectors, and these inspectors weren't very useful to us anyway, so I just disabled them. So now that we've got it down to there, there's very minimal impact on performance, and even then, it will only impact performance if you have it enabled. So I could turn Glimpse off now, and what that does is that this removes a cookie from my session, and it will no longer display Glimpse, so it's disappeared. So that's an example of, I think they call it a runtime policy, a security policy.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we can talk about the details later. Great. So does anyone want to say anything other than take my money?
What are we doing with this now?
Throw it away and rewrite it.
What?
No.
Rewrite it.
Yes, analyze. Ask all the questions about licensing technically. How do we redistribute it? How do we integrate it? What do we integrate by default? What modules should support it? Will the module support it as a first class implementation in their own feature, or should we create other features for each of the modules? How to organize this in the code base, and what do we need in the core and what do we need as modules?
Yeah, so just to jump in there, one problem that I had was ideally what I'd want to do is something like this. So this basically suppresses the default content manager and then extends it with a Glimpse one. And all this does, this just wraps the base get method. Now that's ideal from my point of view. However, that wasn't possible in all situations. For example, the widget filter puts on...
There are other solutions. If we integrate a core in the framework, a core diagnostics interface, we could plug the diagnostics with Glimpse and include diagnostic code in the default implementations.
Yeah.
So
that's how I envisioned it. That's why I wanted to abstract Glimpse from the iPerformance monitor interface.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe that opens a discussion about you call it performance monitor, we could call it diagnostics, and see what we can do with that, like a framework diagnostic interface, and then we implement it specifically for Glimpse as a module.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, we'll talk about it offline. We need more time than just 7 more minutes.
Yeah.
That's awesome, Chris. Thank you. How come don't we know you yet? Because you seem to create a bunch of websites, modules. I've seen something from you on GitHub. I won't mention. So, what's your nickname?
I've been at the last 2 Orchard harvests.
Seriously? Who are you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Maybe show me your face and I will.
2 seconds. How do I? Okay, I'm going to turn the webcam on.
I know you can't share your webcam with. I'm sure we've talked, but sorry, I need to see your face.
All right.
Great.
Does anyone want a link to the repo?
Share it.
Yeah. So just a word of warning that it is in the middle of a refactor. Has it gone?
By the way, Chris, is this integration totally self-contained? Like you just drop in a module and it works, or do you need anything else in the global projects or
okay, good question. You can't just throw the module in and it works. There's a very slight issue, and that's highlighted in the README for the module, and that comes down to the fact that when you install Glimpse, it needs to add a root in. However, Orchard, when you install Glimpse, let me just find the web config. Yeah, so this is actually, sorry, I'm not 100% going to show you this because I have connection strings in this. But when you install Glimpse, it'll add this line in your web config. It adds it in the wrong place. It needs, because Orchard already has this line in, and it'll add it below this line. You need to move it above. But I think off the top of my head, that's the only change you've got to make.
Okay, we'll see. Thank you, Chris. Okay,
Well, cheers.
good. How do we close this discussion? We can't close it, it's just opening things. Yeah, everyone likes it. Even myself. So, Zoltan.
Yeah, I will need to be quick. And so last time we talked about Orchard ambassadors, or not last time, but 2 weeks ago or something. I pasted the link to the discussion into the chat window. And
Those who have their speakers on, can you just mute?
yes, because there is.
Or use headsets. Thank you. That worked.
Okay, cool. So when we discussed this, Sébastien jokingly said that we should have a website for this next week, and this actually brings up the. Sorry?
Right?
No,
Oh.
not yet. But it brings up the question whether we should have I don't know how to express that, a distributed or at least a decentralized ecosystem. We pretty much have that today, but let's have it in a more organized way. What I'm talking about is that, for example, this Orchard Ambassadors program, we don't want to have that as a Lombik thing, but rather as an Orchard thing. We can provide work for it, and probably also, or for example, also open a website for it and stuff like that. But we don't want to keep it to ourselves. Now, this brings up the question how we should handle such external websites and external web spaces that are actually something official by Orchard. And the idea would be to have all these sites in a network, possibly also under the orchardproject.net domain as subdomains. And we would just explain that this is how Orchard works. So there is an ambassadors.orchardproject.net that, by the way, is operated by Lombik, but this is still something official Orchard. Or there is a gallery.orchardproject.net that's probably operated by somebody else, because that's also an open question to rewrite a gallery. And the same about documentation and I don't know what. We already have that as well under a subdomain. So the question is, would it be a good idea to have such half internal spaces that are still officially Orchard and not on the website itself, but rather under a subdomain and operated by members of the community?
Technically, yes. With the NAT for documentation, it worked pretty well, but usually it's driven by technical reasons that we want a different website, like documentation, like gallery. Fine to have subdomains. It might be required to have different administrators too. We might also want to use, if everything can work in Orchard, multi-tenancy. But so yes, I don't see why we will not want that. The issue, if you want a separate site, is that it's necessary if we have lots of pages to manage and a specific hierarchy, specific theme. Maybe just a section in the main website will also work. and to make it more official.
Yeah, the reason. Okay, there is still echo. Anyway, so the reason I brought this up is because it would be ideal as a section on the website, as everything else, like the gallery. But we have to face it that we can't always maintain everything at once, and probably it's better to outsource such parts of the Orchard web presence, because then these can move at different speeds and probably more optimally.
Yep.
I don't know.
This is a technical reason. That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, this is purely technical.
Yep.
We have to decide on this from a non-technical standpoint as well. But the driving force here is technical. So, for example, if you want to have something, some new module or whatever to run on the ambassador's website,
Yep.
then we don't have to coordinate everything to update the main website. But
Agreed.
we can't really touch now.
Agreed. Agreed. So if you do something, we will host it under orchardproject.net, and we can even host it if you want.
Sorry, could you please repeat it, because it was very low for me.
I said if you do something, we can send the subdomain to you, and we can also even host it on the same subscription if you want. I don't think you want that. You don't care, but it could be possible. Yep, I agree. The same thing for Show Orchard, could be a subdomain, everything.
Yes, exactly.
Yep. Okay, cool. If you want to go in more details, we'll talk about it next week. Just also to mention, there have been some other MVPs elected for their Orchard work. I've heard that Sean
Lutin.
Sean Lutin got also the MVP award, and Antoine also, Bertrand this year, Sipke I think so too. Yep. I don't get why Zoltan and Benek didn't get it, but yeah, they had it. We take what we have. That's it. Any other last minute comment before we close the meeting? It's 1:03. Nope. Great. So talk to you on Thursday. Thanks everyone, and especially thanks Chris for your work. See you on Thursday. Bye. Thank you.
Bye everyone.
Bye, everyone.